Halloween 2 talks are already happening according to Danny McBride. That is the headline on this week's special edition of Movie Burner News. And I say special edition, John, because this is going to be Halloween based. It's going to be horror based. And we're just going to delve right into this. It's Halloween 2 talks are already happening according to Danny McBride. Now, this is coming in from movieweb.com. Now, it says that Danny McBride is already in talks, but when you actually look at the article, he's not saying too much. They're thinking about it.
They are thinking about it. He basically says that he definitely has ideas of what he would do, that he's not really allowed himself to indulge in the ideas until the movie came out, and that he just wanted to put all of his hopes and dreams and intention and care into making sure the current Halloween film, which is out in the cinemas just now, it was a success, that it stuck the landing, as he said. He then went on to say that he had a few ideas and thoughts on what they could possibly do, but that he hadn't invested a ton of time on them, but now they're beginning to ask if they can figure it out. There's definitely talks on whether we will do more of them, and they're just trying to make sure and make sense of what they could do going forward. So I'm stuck with this one, Stephen, because we spoke about this on Box Office Chat yesterday. Do I think it's necessary for them to do another sequel to this? Quasi-sequel, as they've all been calling it, a quasi-sequel. I don't know how to pronounce that bloody word. It's a word I just recently discovered with the release of this film. Everybody and their granny was calling it a quasi-sequel. I don't know what the hell that means. I think I do know what it means. It means it's ditching all the other sequels that we had in between 1978 and today, and then doing a direct continuation of that original story. Do I think this deserves a sequel? I'm not so sure. I thought the film was quite enjoyable. I liked it. I thought it was a decent slasher film. It never really done anything that blew me away, though. It never took the genre or the sub-genre of horror and expanded upon it and done something amazing, had a eureka moment, or used some intelligent bit of plot design or whatever, the likes of A Quiet Place did, taking the concept of silence and making that an integral part of the story. It never did anything like that, really. It was just the same old slasher stuff, the same old Michael Myers, with the nice added addition of Laurie Strode being this grisly old sort of Sarah Connor character who had been sitting there drummed into her family, her daughter and herself for 40 years, waiting on that day to come, and then she just utilised it with everything she had to really bring this guy down, this haunting figure that is the Shape, or Michael Myers. I don't know if it deserves a sequel, but listen, if Danny McBride can come up with something that makes sense, that's not too out there, that we don't start getting into like the whole Rob Zombie side of things where it's just crazy, where he's supernatural and you're decapitating him and he's coming back again and again and again, then I'd be up for it. But this, I like self-contained stories, Stephen. If we're going to do a sequel, then I like to keep it to a trilogy at best. I don't like them getting off and doing like bloody Insidious type things where it just goes on and on and on, and then it gets ever more ridiculous as the stories and the films progress. It needs to be something that's logical, it's organic, and they can take it from this story into the next, and then just call it an end there. Make it a trilogy, man. Do it like the original Terminator 1, 2, 3. They should have stuck with that and then ended it. All this Salvation and Genesis, just utter shite, and it watered the franchise down. Don't do it again.
I think those original sequels, John, that you referred to, I don't think the filmmakers really wanted to commit either way. They wanted to have a maximum sort of conclusions to these films as separate films, give it the sort of climatic finish that it deserves by finishing off Michael Myers in each of these films, and then realising this is making money, let's make another one. And it just continued on for maybe about 2 or 3 sequels after that. I'm not opposed to it, but they've got to be very careful that they don't get down the same road as those earlier sequels. Halloween 2, the 1981 version, was okay, very much like this Halloween 2018. It's probably a fitting sequel. Feel and tone they got right in this one, and that closing scene with the granddaughter holding the knife, there's a reason that the camera pans down on that, and that's to hint that possibly maybe Michael Myers isn't returning, maybe it's going to be the granddaughter. They already did this. I think it was The Curse of Michael Myers. I think that was the 4th film, if I'm not mistaken, where it was his niece or something like that. I can't remember. It was ridiculous anyway, and she had a clown outfit on, just like the young Michael did in that original movie. Not very inventive, not very original, but certainly those closing scenes to Halloween 2018 suggested that there was more to come. Whether or not they'll leave it open-ended, it remains to be seen. I don't think there's too much in what Danny McBride is saying here, but this film, I think it was, what, a $10 million budget or something like that. Yeah. So it's going to have quite a small budget, but it's going to make tons of money. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think they're going to do it, to be honest with you. Whether or not Jamie Lee Curtis will return, that's another thing.
She says as long as the director and Danny McBride are involved, apparently she would be up and open to coming back again. But you can understand why they're already in talks about bringing out another sequel. You look at the performance, certainly in the United States, where it's always been a monster release. Even the crapper films in the franchise made decent money. But apparently this is now the film's biggest... But apparently this is now the biggest film in the franchise's history. It's set to gross another $32 million in its second weekend in the United States. So I think it's well over $100 million at this point. It's doing very well indeed. And you can understand why the studio was then already in talks about firing out another sequel, because money talks. And if people are there and there's an audience going to see it, then they're going to go back and watch it. And as I did say, if you can work out some organic way of continuing the story, even if it is the granddaughter, and we don't see Michael Myers again, although I find that very unlikely. They build the whole thing off of that mask, don't they, really? And the towering figure that is the shape of Michael Myers. I mean, I don't know, Stephen, I'm quite happy to go and see another Halloween film. I went to see this one, I get enjoyment out of it. Certainly it's not a franchise that really does seem to connect quite as much with United Kingdom and its audience members as it does in the United States. It's a bit of a phenomenon over there, not so much here. It's only grossed about £2 million or something, £2.5 million in its opening weekend here. That hasn't turned the box office up. It wasn't even enough to pass A Star Is Born, for Christ's sake. A musical film, a very good musical film, but a musical film nonetheless. In the midst of the whole Halloween buzz, we're in Halloween itself, Stephen, and it can't even topple A Star Is Born. But hey-ho, I ain't one of the guys that didn't go out and watch this film. I put my hard-earned cash in to watch it. I'm up for a sequel if they can make it work. I don't know. I don't know if they could make it work. I don't want to see this omnipotent Michael Myers being coming back again. Just it gets ridiculous after a while. I think they should maybe do a sequel and then end it there. Close the story finally. And then if they want to do something, just...
No, they're not going to do
make up another bloody character, man. Just leave Michael Myers alone. Leave William Shatner's bloody prosthetic mask alone, man.
Listen, see, as long as these movies are making money, they're not going to do that. They're not going to kill off a cash cow. No. Very much like James Bond. They're not going to do that. It really just depends.
James Bond's going to die.
It really just depends on whether or not the director, the writers, and Jamie Lee Curtis want to do it. If Jamie Lee Curtis comes back, it's obviously under those conditions. But I'll take what Danny McBride's saying with a pinch of salt. Yeah. I think they're just going to watch and see how this performs. The early signs are very good for the movie. Not necessarily meaning it's going to be any time soon anyway. It could be maybe 2 or 3 years down the line that they might decide to write another sequel to this film, but we'll wait and see. Yeah. Now, John, this was something that came in from Variety.com the other day in regards to Conjuring 3 draws Curse of La Llorona, director Michael Chaves. And this is going to be, I think it's scheduled for 2020, John. Yeah. And we're going to talk about La Llorona in a little second, or a minute or two even, in regards to that trailer that dropped a couple of weeks ago. But this is going to be the Conjuring 3, as I said. This is going to be part of the Conjuring series, obviously. This is, I think, is this the 5th or 6th movie? It's going to be at that point, I'm not sure.
It'll be the 6th movie. There's been 2 Conjuring films, 2 Annabelle films, and The Nun, so it'll be the 6th movie when it releases.
Yeah, I know.
There's James Wan, obviously, the producer. He's got this guy, and he directed the first couple of films, I think.
I know they've got an Annabelle film coming out next year as well, John. So, and there's another one as well, Crooked Man, I think it's called, which is still to be confirmed, but a lot happening in this universe. But as I said, this director, don't really know too much about him. Looked at his IMDb CV, and he's not really done a lot in regards to directing, but from what I've seen from this La Llorona trailer. It's a very good trailer, but we'll get into that in a moment. What's your thoughts on this, John?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with this, Stephen. I can't lie, I don't know a huge amount about the guy prior to this cuss of Llorona. I can't even say it right. Llorona. There you go, that's a tongue twister. Prior to this film being announced, and as you did see, seeing the trailer, I've been intrigued by the guy, and I think he's the perfect choice now to come in and helm this Conjuring universe. As we did see with Corin Hardy doing the Nun, didn't quite work out for me. I didn't think that was all that great. Obviously, Annabelle, you had David F. Sandberg and Leoniti, I believe, John R. Leoniti, directed those films. So it's kind of continuing this theme in this universe where, out with the first two Conjuring films, you do seem to get a new director coming in to helm the various different films. And that can work two ways. We've seen it with Star Wars. It doesn't work all that well with that because you get these discombobulated, disconnected stories. They're all self-contained stories. They're doing different things and they've got an open sandbox. But then you also see it in the likes of the MCU and stuff like that, where it works very well. If you get a set agenda, a set storyline, overarching themes, and they're allowed a degree of freedom to come in and do what they want in these different films. So I don't know how it's going to work in this. Certainly the first two Conjuring films I thoroughly enjoyed. James Wan directed and produced those. Sadly, he's not directing anymore. No. He's moving on to being more of a Kevin Feige figure, getting into the producing side, becoming more than just a guy sitting in a chair shouting action and whipping around with cameras. He's wanted to go off and be a big company man now and do his own thing. He's got his own producing company, which is called Atomic Monster, and it's this that's going to be stepping in to produce this new Conjuring film alongside Peter Safran's The Safran Company. He's going to get David Leslie Johnson, McGoldrick, to come back, who also wrote the script for Conjuring 2. He's going to be writing the script for this. So all in all, signs are very positive for this. Didn't like the Nun film. I thought the first couple. I thought the first Annabelle film was decent. The second one was okay too. Not a patch. I don't think there's anything but a patch on the first two Conjuring films though. So I'd like to see this particular series within the wider Arkham universe continuing its strong success and stories. I like the way they kind of it's quite intelligent the way they actually handle it. And you've got the primary hauntings that are going on that the Wardens are helping to investigate, and then in the background you've got more wider arcing things going on. We've got the Nun and stuff and bigger things going on. It all interconnects it also. Hopefully this is going to be another very strong release for The Conjuring. I think they're getting the perfect guy in. He's by all accounts a guy that can do horror very well. I've not seen Llorona yet, so I don't know that for sure, but from the trailer it looks like a very decent horror. It looks quite dark, looks interesting, looks quite scary actually, but I doubt I'll be scared because I'm 29. I don't really get scared. But listen, signs seem to be pointing to this being very, very good indeed. I don't know what the hell is going to be the premise for this one. I'd maybe have to dive into that maybe while you're talking again, and then I'll maybe have a better idea of where it's going to be set, because obviously the first film was Amityville, second film was that famous Yorkshire haunting. They always do very distinct, like real hauntings, famous hauntings, and they go and put a twist on it. So I don't know what they're going to do here, but here I'll have a little look in a minute and see. Yeah, apparently John, Chaves was discovered, I think it was a horror short called The Maiden, which New Line Cinema appointed him as director for this film La Llorona. And I think appointing him to this film La Llorona, they've seen what the guy can do. They've got every faith in carrying on the Conjuring universe with this third instalment as well, John. But we'll just move right into the trailer then, since we keep mentioning this film anyway. We saw this trailer last week, but we decided to hold it back till Halloween. As you said, John, it's a very tense trailer. I didn't know anything about this till you showed me it last week, and one thing I did get out of it was it felt like old school horror. Very suspenseful, especially that scene in the car with the young boy. Was it his sister as well? Yeah, his sister. Yeah, his sister, I think it is. And it's just that tense moment out in the middle of nowhere on that dark road, and you're just waiting for it to happen. You know something's going to happen. It's just that waiting for it to happen that really kills you, and that's one of the good recipes to any horror movie, is adding that suspense. Certainly I've done it in the trailer, and they've got my interest. As you know, John, I'm not the biggest horror fan.
but if it's done right, I can enjoy it, and I think this movie is certainly one that I'm going to check out.
Yeah, I mean, since I've done a little bit of digging, apparently this Llorona, apparently as the way you see it, it is a bit of a folklore figure, like a mystical figure. It's pops up in the sort of Hispanic, Latin, South American countries.
Yeah.
I think maybe Mexico and stuff like that primarily, but it's a bit of a figure that pops up throughout history. It's centuries old, but like the sort of like Candyman over here, you see it 3 times and stuff like that, and it appears. It's a bit of a figure of fear that's transcended multiple generations. They're quite steeped in their mysticism and stuff like that in these Latin countries. So this is it looks like it's a faithful retelling of the story. It looks like it's quite a good setting. It appears to be set in Latin America. So it's going to be intriguing once again to see them diving into that culture. We've seen it with Coco and the connection they've got with the Land of the Dead and the festivals and stuff.
Who's got wind down windows these days, right?
Yeah, I know. Who has got wind down windows these days? But hey, oh, look. They need it for this. It's a good plot point, Stephen, because this bloody ghost can wind it like no man's business. It can. It's a strong ghost. Yeah. And listen, I completely agree with you. It's full of suspense. They're not overusing this character. We only see some fleeting glances of her, but some scary fleeting glances as well, as you did see that car scene where she appears briefly looking through the window, and then there's another moment where there's a hooded figure standing in the darkness. Yeah. And much like Pet Sematary, when we seen that dead figure, the bloody dead figure behind the young boy and the mother in the house. I don't know what the mother's name is because I never seen the original Pet Sematary. But it looks like a perfectly balanced trailer. It's giving us a hint of what the story's about. It's showing us a setting. I believe it's Latin America. If it's faithful to the actual folklore and the history of this figure, Llorona, then it will be in Latin America. Yeah. It's quite a revered figure over there. They're quite scared of it, you know. They're very religious in that part of the world. And this looks like a perfect setting. The only issue I would see is maybe the clashing with the nun, which just came out very recently. Yeah. It's a similar setup, kind of a clandestine, evil, mystical figure. And it's similar. It's like similar concept. Is it going to maybe confuse audience members? Are they going to look at the listings and see that this is exactly like the nun? I'm not going to go and watch this because I've just seen a film like this. We're going to get good word of mouth. They're going to push us hard with trailers. And then it'll maybe drive people into watch the film if it becomes apparent it's a very good film. From this first trailer, it's a teaser trailer, it's very short and sweet. I liked what I seen. It looks like a very good director. He looks up and coming. I can't wait to see what he does with The Conjuring, which is a bigger open sandbox where he can really dive into a whole host of famous settings, hauntings. This is another famous haunting from Latin America, and I think looks like he's getting the balance right with the scares, the utilisation of this character. The setting looks amazing, the darkness and all of that. So it looks very good.
I think New Line Cinema as well been very clever, John, utilising this chap because, as you said, he's not got a big resume. But give him a project like this Curse of La Llorona, see how he does with that, and take it from there, and then we can introduce him to a bigger franchise. But this comes out 19th of April 19th next year, and it's going to be quite a big year for horror films, John. When you look at the likes of Hellboy, well, it's a kind of comic book horror. You've got Godzilla as well, World War Z 2, Zombieland 2, that's more comedy, and you've also got the New Mutants as well, which surprisingly it's kind of went a bit quiet on that front with that movie as well. But then you've got the likes of Pet Sematary, which we were talking about the other day. Another film, John, as well, called The Turning, which I don't know too much about, but it's certainly going to be a big year next year for horror movies. But I'm looking forward to seeing this one, I've got to be honest with you. I'm more intrigued with this than I was with The Nun. I don't know why. I think the early signs of this is very promising. I think The Nun sort of pushed the promotion very late on for its release, but this is we've still got another 6 months before this film's released, and we're already getting a trailer. So I think New Line Cinema, I've got every faith in this film having some sort of success. Yeah, well,
the final thing I'll say on it, Stephen, is I've actually just looked at the actual story, and as I said, it's a Hispanic Latin American figure. Basically, the backstory to her is she was a beautiful woman who, after suffering heartbreak, drowned her own children, and I think she took her life. She turned into a very vengeful ghost who, to get over the heartache and righting the wrongs of killing her children, then proceeds to haunt other children, kidnapping them and whatnot, and murdering them and keeping them up at night. So, all in all, a terrifying figure, very scary figure. And as we've just discovered, Stephen, that perhaps we're getting the wind-up windows, because it's apparently set in the 70s, the story that this is getting based off. I don't know if that's correct or not. That may explain the wind-up windows.
Certainly explains that boy's hairstyle.
Yeah, well, I don't think anything could explain that boy's hairstyle, Stephen. That's almost as scary as Larry Rona herself. But look, I'm very intrigued to see this film and what the hell they're going to do with it. It's again like The Conjuring. They're basing it off of real events, real mystical figures, real urban legends and horrors. There's been apparent ghost sightings of this actual ghost out in towns and stuff like that, and throughout Mexico City and things like that. So I can't wait to see what they do. It looks very dark. It looks like a faithful adaptation of a story. Again, we're getting to go into this great culture which really does celebrate its dead and stuff like that, and gets right into it wholeheartedly. So can't wait to see what this guy brings to the table, with an eye to The Conjuring 3 coming up. I can't wait to see this film in general, because it's been a bit of a renaissance for the horror genre over the last few years. It took a dip for a while, I felt, but now it's really starting to regain its verve and coming back into prominence. So I can't wait either way.
Yeah, John, just our last topic on this week's Halloween edition of Movie Burner News, and we're going to wrap it up with, this is something that's come in from movieweb.com. James Cameron thinks Blomkamp's Alien 5 is a great idea, says Sigourney Weaver.
Yes, this is Sigourney talking about, I think it was a script to get kicked to the curb a couple of years ago, maybe even a year ago or so, I don't know when it was. Apparently it was down to 20th Century Fox refusing to move forward with the project, so its cancellation was announced in 2017, so it's about a year or so, 2 years ago. And she says, we almost started to do it when I was working with James Cameron, but by the time we were put off by Fox, Neil had gotten so many jobs that we'd have to wait probably. I'm busy doing Avatar 4 and 5, that just boggles my mind to the point where you can't even imagine. I've only got one Avatar film, and she's saying I'm busy doing Avatar 4 and 5. Where's 2 and 3? Sigourney, what are you doing? But I digress. She moves on to say, I love working with Neil, and I think he'd do a terrific job, and James Cameron really thinks it's a great idea, so you never know. Right now, I think Neil's got like 3 projects going at once, a bit like James Cameron.
Yeah.
We 50 million Avatar films that are never going to see the light of day, because he just keeps adding more onto the end. It's like, Jesus Christ, James, it's dropped out of pop culture, son. Get the second one out, but we're not talking about that, we're talking about Aliens 5 here. I don't know what the hell the backstory or premise is to this Aliens 5. I'm going to read on further and maybe get an idea. But what do you think of this, Stephen? Do you think this is a good idea? The Aliens 5 film? You've seen that. I think you've seen them all. I've only seen 2. So.
I think, John, it's interesting to hear Sigourney Weaver and also James Cameron as well. Does it have any legs on it? I think it could have. I think when you're getting, cast members from the original films, I know that there is a sequel to last year's Alien Covenant in the works as well. So there's a lot happening on that franchise as it is. But I wouldn't write this off. It really just depends on the scheduling. Especially from James Cameron's point of view, he's really delving right into this Avatar, these Avatar sequels, and you're right, I can only assume 2 and 3 are already in the can, John, and it's been very low-key, because this isn't the first article I've seen where they've referred to James Cameron or whoever is currently working on 4 and 5, which only suggests to me that they're done with 2 and 3. But there certainly hasn't been any big hullabaloo about these other sequels. But no, I think it's got legs on it. I think when you get somebody like Sigourney Weaver coming in, who I thought she was done with the franchise, is maybe interested if the likes of Blomkamp and Cameron involved, then she certainly is interested. But it really does come down to scheduling.
Well, I've actually been doing some delving here, Stephen, and apparently this booted out script would have served as a direct sequel to Aliens, which is obviously the second film in the franchise. It would have ignored the events of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. So it's much like what we're seeing with, I think it's Men in Black, it's doing it as well, and Halloween, where you're often doing like a sequel, maybe ignoring the events of the later films, maybe not so much Men in Black, I think that's just in a totally different universe. It's in the same universe, but it's not connected to the stories. More like Halloween, as you said. And this seems to be something we're seeing more and more. I think Robocop, I was talking was getting a Robocop film that would be a quasi-sequel. It ignores the later sequels and focuses on the earlier stories, which were also of a higher standard. So I don't know how that would work really, because Sigourney is obviously getting on in years. All of the other original characters, I think Lance Henriksen was one of the androids, one of the main androids. He's nearly 80, so they're all getting on. I don't know how they could blend that in. How could we get a direct sequel from Aliens, which is in the late 80s, early 80s, mid 80s? It was in the 80s, and that's all I know. And do it right. How would they do it? Would they use that de-aging technology? If James Cameron's involved, certainly this is a guy that's got an eye for technology, so if anybody could do it justice, I'm sure James could, but I don't know if I'd want to see it, Stephen, I can't lie.
The other thing, John, is as well that it's still in the minds of all the fans of the franchise as well, that these stories do exist in their head. It's very easy for filmmakers to say, you know, disregard all this and disregard all that. We saw it with Bryan Singer's Superman Returns, which was a direct sequel to, I think, Superman 2, I think it was. You can't do that, you know, especially if you grow up watching these films. It's very hard to really connect. I didn't mind Superman Returns. I didn't think it was the worst movie ever made. Certainly wasn't up there with Superman the movie and Superman 2. But it's very hard for the audience members, certainly if you've grown up with the Alien franchise, to disregard portions of the storyline. Alien 3 and what was the other one? Resurrection. Alien 3 and Resurrection were fine movies. They weren't on par with those first two movies, Alien and Aliens. Certainly weren't. But it seems to be a common trend. I think Terminator's gone down that road as well, the franchise, where they want you to ignore certain aspects of the timeline and installments to the story as well. And sometimes it's very difficult for the audience member to disconnect and try and disregard certain elements, because I think, especially with Alien, there's so many of the films being released now that it can become quite confusing for the sort of casual moviegoer.
Yeah, well, what they're actually saying, Stephen, is that survivors from Aliens, the likes of Hicks and Newt, would be coming back and they'd be growing up, so maybe they are going to do a time jump, I don't know, but you're right, it's difficult for people who have maybe seen the original sequels to this, obviously Aliens, like Resurrection and 3 and stuff like that. It'd be difficult for them to come in and watch this and discard that from my mind. Certainly wouldn't be difficult for me, because I've only seen Aliens, and I've seen Prometheus, which was just... I wish I hadn't seen it, because it was another pile of shite, really. But look, for me, this is a franchise that's dead. It's dead. It's flatlining. It's gone. And it needs Kevin Bacon to come in and save the day, really. Obviously he did in Flatliners. That's a terrible joke, but I digress. Anything could improve this franchise. Yeah, it went right over my head as well, Stephen, and I was the one that said it. But look, if anything can be done to save this franchise, and maybe utilise Sigourney Weaver, Michael Bines, Hicks, and I'm up for it. I don't care, man. Bring them in. You can use de-aging technology. You can do a time jump. I don't care. Franchise is dead anyway. It can't get any worse than it already is. And I ain't get much more to add to it, because it's all speculation, and apparently even if it is going to happen, it's going to be years away anyway, so not get much more to add to that. And I think that just brings us on to the next and final stage of the show, Stephen, which is of course the poll of the week. And this week's poll was all about a certain Quentin Tarantino. We asked, which of these 4 Tarantino films is the best? And this is a bit of a cheat, Stephen, because we couldn't quite separate Kill Bill, so we fired the two of them together, but there was a 2011 complete release anyway, but we couldn't fit the whole title in, so we just put Kill Bill 1 and 2. So we had Kill Bill 1 and 2, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction and Django Unchained. And surprise, surprise, Pulp Fiction absolutely pulverised the rest of the films, winning with 52% of the vote. Reservoir Dogs and Kill Bill 1 and 2 had 17% and Django Unchained just 14%. This was 369 votes. Once again, very well received, this poll. We'd just like to thank anybody that's voting on this and maybe listening to this show for voting on the poll. Please continue, because we want to keep this going. We've got another poll up just now, incidentally, and it's all about the Coen brothers. But what did you make of this, Stephen? What was your personal favourite?
Firstly, John,
one of the all-time greats.
I think, yeah, it certainly is. And I think, just while we're on the horror theme, I'd love to see Tarantino doing some kind of I know Death Proof kind of had elements of horror in it, I suppose, but I'd like to see him do some kind of slasher movie.
Incredible.
Very similar to the Halloween or the Friday the 13th, that, set maybe in the 1970s. But just getting back to the poll, John, it's a tough one. I went with Pulp Fiction, but as you said, he's got so many films that we couldn't get into the 4 option poll on Twitter. Reservoir Dogs was the first movie that I was introduced to Tarantino. It's an excellent film. I go back to it every now and again. Kill Bill 1 and 2 was, it felt a bit more commercialised in regards to his style. Certainly when you look at the likes of Reservoir Dogs, which wouldn't have been a big budget. The film locations as well, I think it was mostly set in a warehouse with a handful of actors. Kill Bill 1 and 2, you were going all over the world with this one. Such a large cast as well, some well-known names. Pulp Fiction, first time I saw a movie like this where you got the ending in the middle and the middle and the end, which was good for us because we both liked Vince Vega character, and we were really annoyed when
I was annoyed with the manner of his death.
The manner of his death, but it was still in that last scene, at the very end, because of the way it was constructed, and the soundtrack as well. But like all Tarantino films, the soundtracks are always outstanding. Django Unchained, 14%. I'm very surprised at that. I think someone on Twitter said that it's a very long film, but it goes in like that.
Yeah, it does.
A terrific cast as well. Leonardo DiCaprio, outstanding in this film. This is the one where he cut his hand, wasn't it, for real?
Yeah.
And he carried on acting, and that cut is in the actual movie. But overall, it's a very tough 4 to choose from. But I went with Pulp Fiction just because it was the one. It reminds me of the 1990s as well, that mid-90s, and a lot of the songs that were in that soundtrack, that was the first time I heard them. Certainly the You Never Can Tell, the one from Chuck Berry, and that scene and that sequence is now legendary.
Yeah, there's so many moments in that film, Stephen. That was the one I picked as well, Pulp Fiction, just because of Samuel L. Jackson. It's iconic. That's really buffed the whole motherfucker thing that was just completely connected with him now, and it has been for 20 odd years. Vince Vega, even Bruce Willis, amazing in it. Martel and Marcellus as well. Just littered with a whole host of memorable characters. The drug dealer, Uma Thurman's character, whose name always forgets me. Mia Wallace, that dance scene, epic. Just the little intricate things you said, Stephen, that Tarantino always nails, like that great feeling of coming back from the toilet to discover your food's there. Yeah. It's true, it's all great little things. It's all great little things that he nails, all those little real life things. Just obviously the big kahuna burger as well. The lines are infinitely quotable. Say what again? Burger, the cornerstone of every nutritious breakfast. Him reading out that Ezekiel line. And it's an incredible film, one of my all-time favourite films really, but certainly is my favourite Tarantino film as well. Even the ones that weren't on the list, like Jackie Brown and Inglourious Basterds, which is probably my second favourite. But it couldn't make it because you can't fit all of this guy's films in. But the other film was Django Unchained, amazing performance from Jamie Foxx, Leonardo DiCaprio, and obviously Christoph Waltz. Incredible film. It did fly in. It was 3 hours long, but it was amazing. Really told the story of slavery and stuff like that, and just the brutality that was going on back then. Amazing performance from Samuel as well. A bit of a bastard in it, to be truthful, but again, an incredible performance. A guy just pops up again and again and works with Tarantino. There's a reason for that. Kill Bill 1 and 2, thoroughly enjoyed them as well. Uma Thurman's, obviously Revenge Tale, she goes through a whole list of people that wronged her, obviously at the start, shot her, buried her alive. Incredible film, incredible graphic moments as well, utilising cartoon, I'm sure, if I remember it correctly. I've not seen it in a while, anime. Amazing violence, that, obviously, I can't remember which one it is, the one with the little mace wielding Asian woman gets decapitated. That's an incredible sequence. And Reservoir Dogs, utterly amazing film. And obviously Harvey Keitel and Steve Buscemi and a whole host of other people. An incredible piece of cinema that, just as you did say, set around a bit of warehouse. Amazing twist at the end. You don't really know who's done it. It's like who's done it. Who's obviously ratted on them, sold them down the river. And one thing that really does go through all of this is just the music and the utilisation of music. He's got a knack for picking out just amazing soundtracks, and you nailed it with You Never Can Tell in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Incredible storytelling, incredible dialogue throughout all these films, amazing prominent figures, not so prominent figures. The guy's just a masterful filmmaker, and it's difficult to pick one, but Pulp Fiction for me.
Yeah, and the thing that always carries through these films made by Tarantino as well, John, he's always got his trademarks. He's always got those, the point of view from the car boot, where you're looking out to the person opening the boot, or the trunk in the US. And you've also got, he's got a strange fetish for feet as well. He seems to like to film feet. And you're right, John. The other thing as well, I forgot Harvey Keitel was in Pulp Fiction as well. He plays Mr. Wolf, isn't it? He's the man that's got to clean up the mess, and it's just his line delivery as well. The interactions as well with Tarantino, who plays, I think the character's called Warren. I think it is.
Yeah, the moment with the coffee.
Yeah,
he's not taking shit from the two from Vince Vega and the other one. I forget his name. Samuel's character. I forget his name all the time. Jules Winfield doesn't take any shit from them, but as soon as the wolf comes in, right away he's telling them this is a great fucking coffee or something like that. Yeah,
and I think Harvey Keitel doesn't even say anything. He just takes a sip and kind of nods as if this is a good coffee. Yeah. But it's just little things like that. She said, Tarantino, he's a living legend basically, and I can't wait to see his next film. But so that brings us to the end of this week's Movie Burner News Halloween edition. We would just like to thank you once again for joining us, and we will be back tomorrow with the Movie Burner blog rundown.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that latest episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerinentertainment.org. Until next time, goodbye.